Okay, welcome to another episode of Read This podcast. And today I have a lovely guest, Shanice Thomas. Thank you for being on the show.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I met Shanice at the gym and she told me she has a women's group and she has a really cool perspective that, pretty foreign to me on most things, I think. And I think that's why this is going to be a great talk because we're going to go over a few things. I got some topics I would like to touch on, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Okay. Let's just start talking.
Nowadays, things are very dynamic between men and women.
Yes.
Yeah. And, but gender roles are still a thing.
Yes.
And it's because it kind of has to be. And so I just wanted to get your input on it because I know how I feel about things.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share what you had to say.
What's funny is when I've been reflecting on the conversation that we're going to have here, what's funny is I've never really been one to put it in the context of gender roles, but I do feel like there's this underlying energetic that has to happen in order for us to even be able to flow in a gender role type of, even when it just comes to a platonic, even on a platonic level, not even just from a romantic perspective, but just in general, men and women, right? Women need to be in their body, in their womanhood, and men need to be more in that masculine energy.
Yeah, okay. And I guess I'm I think we're saying the same thing. I think that it's just easier in terms of for me, it's I always resort to, if there's trouble or something, that's my job, if there was let's say it's night and it's quiet and we're hanging out, whether we're, friends or together or not, if there's some strange noise outside, I'm not sending you out there and saying, go check it out.
Yeah.
I'll wait here. That's not your job. It's literally not your job. There might be a million jobs for you and, there's several jobs for me, but that's my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, one of the things I get frustrated about is when you see it in movies and it's the opposite of that, and it's been pushed that way for the last 10 years, and it's shit.
Yeah.
Because it isn't real. That's the hardest part to swallow about anything. Is the whole oh, stay here, I'm gonna go check it out and grab a gun. The guy's with the kids and shit, and that's not how it works. No, and if it is that way, I feel sorry.
What's a movie that you've seen that in?
Pretty much any movie that's that way now for the last 10 years.
Do you feel so this question flew in when you were saying that, because I personally feel that's not a coincidence that stuff's being placed in movies.
Same.
Right? We're kind of being, if we want to get really deep into it, we're being programmed on the most subtle level that woman need to be more that masculine, out there, whatever.
Yeah, pushing you to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
And making it look glamorous and making it look appealing.
Yes.
When, dude, men and women, we're different. We're different.
Yeah.
We think differently. We have different, goals. But because of that, we have different strengths and weaknesses, which make us a great team.
Yes.
When we apply our strengths to your weakness or vice versa.
Yeah. And I feel that's what our collective is missing right now, honestly, is being able to step back and be okay, what is actually true for me here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I think that, again, people hear the word gender role. I used to, before I really started to come back into my womb space, into my body, and really started to know what it means to be a woman. I was gender roles, ugh. I was kind of in that
because that's what society kind of says.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not the traditional blah, blah, blah.
For some reason, nobody wants to be traditional, and it's
But I think again, it comes back to the energetics, right? Because for me, traditional might appear. The word traditional can bring up a lot in itself, right? For me, a traditional energy might look different, but I feel again, it goes back to the energetics. For me, the conversation of
interjects. What do you mean?
So I'm happy we're that's why I was excited. Okay, so when I'm speaking I love this conversation because I think that a lot of women honestly really struggle with what does it mean to be more in my feminine energy, right? I feel there's this surface level get in my feminine energy, and then there's truly being in the energy of the feminine energy. And so the ways that I've experienced it and come to like learn about it over the years is woman, like if I'm, okay, so for example, when I stopped bodybuilding, right? Because for the listeners, I was a bodybuilder from 2017 to 2020 and then competed again in 2023. So I've done 7 bodybuilding shows. And
when you say bodybuilding, like bodybuilding?
I did bikini.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but
that's not bodybuilding.
I
I dated a girl and she was like, I'm a bikini bodybuilder. I'm like, it's not fucking bodybuilding, all
okay,
right?
so
That is a bikini competition, all right?
Actually, for me, it was like a muscle losing because I had too much muscle for bikini, so it definitely wasn't bodybuilding for me.
Well, nowadays, the chicks are like, clack, clack, clack,
That's a whole different conversation.
They have to scale it back. That's what they're doing. They got a new class that they constantly make new classes. That's what happens. They start with a class, like, women's bodybuilding was Rachel McClish. I don't know if you know who she was, but like she smoking hot, looked great, and she was like crushing it. I think 70s, 80s, maybe 60s. I'm not sure, but she looked amazing. She had muscle, but she was fit and feminine. So she was strong. She looked healthy. She just looked all the things that you want. Yeah, and that was women's bodybuilding. Women's bodybuilding now are like. Chicks be like, what you got on this? Holmes, what's up? And it's cool. And I respect the ladies that do it, Andrea Shaw, you're a badass, and you're such a sweetheart. And it is amazing because it's amazing. But the sport has evolved so much that we have to have different categories because there's not every woman that wants to do that. Yeah. And so we have multiple categories. There's like women's bodybuilding, women's physique, women's figure, women's bikini. Now there's like a new class coming out that's going to be like, women's bikini, more like model, stay in shape.
That even goes with our conversation. As it's evolved, look what's happened. Women are starting to go more towards like the masculine energy aspect of it because what happens, again, coming from my experience of going from like bodybuilder, hardcore, no restrictions, weighing everything to the T, doing all these like very, I would say, masculine doing action things, kept me from softening. And kept me from being able to receive. And it's not that I blame those things, but when I transitioned and I started to go to the opposite side, basically, and I was like, okay, I need to rest more. I started tuning to my menstrual cycle. I started really learning what it meant to like be in a woman's body. I started to realize how much being in that doing and that masculine energy was keeping me in a fight or flight stress response. It was keeping me from being able to receive life as a whole, right? It kept me from feeling like I could relax inside of my body. And so...
How come?
Because I was more in that doing energy. I was more in that always productive, gotta always be busy, Women's bodies aren't made that way. Women's bodies aren't made that way. Like we... our bodies are made, we have a womb, right? We have a womb. We have a whole anatomy inside of us that can carry human life. So when you put that into context, it's like to be in a woman's body is meant to be, we're just naturally meant to be more like just in love with life and more just in that radiance and that fertility and stuff. But now, at least, just this is my personal opinion based off of like how I was when I was into bodybuilding, and then where I've like shifted so much of is we learned that we need to be in a more yang. So I don't know if you've heard the terms like yin and yang before.
Of course.
So yang would be more masculine, more doing, more in that energy. We've learned
the balance, the harmony.
Exactly. We don't have harmony. So to me, to truly be in my feminine energy, I need to have an integrated masculine energy. Because if I don't have an integrated masculine energy, then I'm going to be overcompensating and being more in this stress. It's all on me. I'm this, I'm that, I got it all, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be drained. Again, I'm going to be stressed. And then how can I actually be in that, we want to call it traditional, how can I be also the caretaker, the nurturer, the one who provides nourishment? How can I be those things if I'm stressed because I think that I need to be more of a masculine?
Totally.
So it's like a paradox, right? Because when I first started this journey, I was like, well, I need to be more of my feminine. I need to be more of my feminine. And then it's almost like I lost the part of me that is driven, that is really passionate, that does take action. but I lost sight of that. And when I integrated it, I was like, okay, cool. Now I can bring that same energy I brought in bodybuilding, but in a more like softened way where I'm not overexerting and stressing out myself. So I feel like that's where the energetics come in, because you're trying to, like, for example, you're talking to a woman and you feel like she's not really in her feminine. It's probably because she is just more overcompensated by, like, she needs to take care of herself. She needs to be the one, be the one, be the one, be the one. Mm-hmm. Personally, for me, I grew up with my mom being basically mom and dad. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of unlearning to do when it comes to what it means to, like, be, like, truly being able to be in my feminine.
Okay, I got a couple questions before we move on. So, all right. Well, I would like to say this. So, one thing I know about even some women bodybuilders, like, they might be incredibly muscular, but with the right guy, I've seen them just be incredibly feminine. Mm-hmm. You know, and so they might be jacked, but, like...
And that's the energetic.
You know, but, like, that's because they have a passion, you know, for their bodies to do that thing and whatever. And I've seen, you know, these women just be, like, such a solid partner, you know, to the guy they're with, you know? And it's like, you know, all that muscle kind of goes away when you see them with their man, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that we can think that a woman's so masculine because she's muscular and all these things, but that woman, that's how she wants to express herself. And that is like that's like her masterpiece. And I think that I think it kind of depends on, obviously it's independently variable with everyone, but, you know, again, you know, the idea of masculine and feminine is to be together to be able to do both, you know, because if a guy's never around a woman, his ability to receive femininity just diminishes.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's functioning in what is normal, which is just masculinity. But the problem with a society pushing women to be more masculine is that's not your comfortable spot. Mm-mm. And you know,
it's stress.
And you know that it's not, because it's like, you're talking about it right now, how to come back to this and that and everything, and it's a bummer because it's like they're pushing women this way, like, be independent, be as good as a man.
Women are scared to slow down.
Yeah,
women don't slow. Like we fear slowing down.
Well, but it's almost like we're taught the wrong things. And we're teaching the wrong things. I want to make sure with my notes here. It's like
it's like a generational aspect. People are taught the wrong things, so we end up teaching those wrong things because then it's what we know, so we pass it along, and then. Well,
yeah, and at the same time, it's like. This is kind of jumping to the end of my conversation, but I mean, we're kind of there, so we can just move this around. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is like women are always told how a man should treat them. Women are always told, you know, a man should do this, he should do that, and then, you know, as a man, we're like, well, look for a woman that has these qualities or whatnot. But like, women are never taught how to treat a man anymore. Yeah. Because, like, what women, like, fail to understand, and I think it's real simple, like, you know, you want to be feminine, right? And if you want to be feminine, then you have to have somebody that's masculine in your life. And so this is like, you see it time and time again. It's like, if a real masculine guy, like, when he's in his masculine, he wants to take care of everyone around him. Yeah. He wants to protect. He wants to provide. It makes us feel like a fucking man. That's like what we like. We're like, yeah, like, I did this, I made that, I got this is my family, this is my. That's what we like to do, you know. But you get a woman where she's successful, and she gets selfish. Yeah. Because all she's thinking about her. She doesn't want to provide for that man. She doesn't want to provide for the family. Right. It's a real thing. So it's like, why are we pushing women to do that then? Yeah. Like, why are we doing that? Really, we should just push women to be able to figure out how to find the right guy, you know, so they could be the best they could be, because then a woman's thinking, all right, well, maybe if I was taught how to treat a man, I would attract a better type of a man, so I could be a better woman. So yes, and I hear you, and I partly agree, but I also disagree. Because I, like, coming from a place of like, okay, oh, that's like putting the
putting the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the responsibility on a man to put a woman, and I don't think you're saying this, but I think that it can be taken in a way where it's like, okay, so then is it the man's job for a woman to be in her feminine? Coming from experience, I've actually been able to relax more in my feminine through like celibacy, through taking time away from like going on dates and like doing all these things. It actually allowed me to come to a place where I can learn to be in my body. Because again, like if I'm kind of going throughout my life, like putting me in this scenario where I'm like, oh, I'll never be able to be in my feminine until I'm with a man, then I'm kind of like, it's like waiting for a savior type thing. It's kind of like Disney movies. Like once the man comes, then I can. And again, I don't think you're saying that, but.
I mean, I'm not really saying that, but at the same time, like, let's think about like, typically you are detoxing from a lifestyle in your 20s of being a very different person than you are now.
For sure.
And that person was somebody that was told, you got to take the world by storm, you know, be a boss bitch, slay the day, like all this shit. And
slay
it's like, and it's like, it is. And
I mean, I'll still be slaying the day.
And I'm not saying, you know, but like at the end of the day, like a man is going to live a full life when he has that right female and has a family.
So you're speaking to like the union, right? The union of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
But so I am too, but I fully like stand in the idea that the union needs to happen between like a woman and God and a woman and like, okay. So that's what I'm speaking to, right? Like if I feel like I can't be in my feminine until I come into union with a man, then that's actually going to derail me a lot more than I realize, because I'm saying that I need a man to feel safe in my body. I create safety in my body, and then the man becomes the union that I feel like we all crave, is where we can both be rooted in our own bodies and then come and bring what we need to the relationship without there being this like tug of war, right?
Well, so I mean, okay, I think what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think actually, because now that I think about it, so it's like, here's the thing. Like the more feminine a girl is, yeah, the more attractive she is.
Anyways. I mean, the more receptive she is to life.
Because it's like this, when chicks are like telling me like, oh yeah, like, you know, I need someone that can handle me, or, you know, like, you know, I'm a lot, I'm this and that. I'm like, yeah. I don't want to handle you. I don't want to deal with that.
Can you handle yourself?
I deal with men on a regular basis, and I have to deal with them and handle that. I want like the person in my relationship to be so feminine that like when I'm fired up, she's like has a way of calming me. Because when a woman's really feminine, like a guy can't fight that because it's not a fight. So it's like, when a woman tries to be this masculine thing or whatnot, well, us men, we like to fight. Yeah. So now it's on. Yeah. And so now you've just ruined a thing where you could have just went the other direction and get a guy to like melt, you know? And it's like, and it's like not taught. It's not taught that there's so much power in your femininity, because there really is. Because you can take a really masculine dude, like the idea of like the Beauty and the Beast, you know, and you got this guy that's fired up and he's out there crushing it, you know, and he might get off the phone and have a conversation that was not one he wanted to have, and we went the wrong way, and he's all just angry, outwardly angry, you know, and that happens. Because that's how we are, you know what I mean? And, you know, life is a chess game, and sometimes things don't go so good. But then if, like, the woman, you know, is like, well, you shouldn't have did this, you shouldn't have did that, or, you know, you're best. And then it's like, now I got another fight right here at the house. When if it would have been something like, when women are really feminine, like, they don't want to fight. Like, women are just, like, I've seen some girls, you know, I know some girls are just so feminine, it just makes you be like, fuck that call. What's up, babe? Come here. Yeah. You know, and then it's like, and then you come back, and then like, to me, there's a ton of power in a woman being feminine, because like, it's like this idea of like Beastmaster. Because like, if a woman does it right, she can have this guy that is this incredible force, you know, just literally like melting her hand. Yeah. And it's only possible for that guy with a woman that's really feminine. And it's like the idea of like, you saying being feminine before is fantastic. That is great, because you focusing on your femininity now will get you in that right spot, I believe, in that right spot to totally gel with a man that's masculine, you know, and I mean, I'm sure. You know,
I think that, so what I like to look at it, and I would, obviously we don't have time on this podcast for me to like tell my whole story.
We'll get a lot of it.
To tell my whole story. But there's
Shanice.
There's a lot of energy here. There's so much, like this conversation fires me up so much because it's like, I just get really, it's like, okay. If a woman, there's such a difference between a woman who is waiting until the man comes along and the woman who is learning to approach life from that place now, right? Like, I'm approaching it from this place instead of I will approach it from this place when this happens. Because I know that as God's plan unfolds in my life, that whatever is meant to align will align. But I'm not going to wait to embody something, to feel safe in something, right? And maybe it's because I grew up with 4 little brothers. I feel like that kind of like, I grew up around...
That gives you a cool perperspective.
It gives me a cool perspective because I know that they would like kill for me, right? Like I already have that... like I grew up with that. If I were to tell them somebody messed with me right now, like they would fuck someone up.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
And so I feel like that gives me a cool perspective on like what it's like being in like that, being single and being celibate and doing the work that I do in the world. Because again, like learning how to be in my own energy as a woman, it's not even about when the man comes, it's how am I approaching my business from a feminine way? Like I don't want to approach my business from a very masculine way.
That's smart. That's interesting.
I want to be able to just relax and receive and be supported in my business without always needing to be on it or always needing to hustle.
Yeah, do it your way.
Yeah.
Do what's comfortable for you.
For my feminine nature.
Which aligns with you.
Like when I'm bleeding, I'm not working. Like when I'm on my period, I'm not working. So I can set up my business in a way that supports that. A lot of women nowadays, we never learned how to tune to our bleed and our menstrual cycle or our cycles in general, that we are pushing past that. And again, it's putting us more in that masculine energy. So I'm coming from a cool perspective of like, you don't have to wait. And then if you really want the relationship or you want the man, like you said, you'll magnetize it in that much better and that
100%.
much cooler because you're not waiting.
Well, 100%.
I'm like, yeah, I'm 30, but I'm not one of those women that's like, oh my God, I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
I'm running out of time.
No guy likes that.
Well, some women...
That's a whole other bag of worms. We can get to that.
We can talk about it.
We can get there. We can talk from experience.
Yeah. No. And so again, it's like the one that grabs on, that's like, come on, I'm running out of time. Got to start a family. Let's go. And then there's the woman that's like, I don't want to flick off the camera, but I was like the one that's like, I don't need no man. Like, you know what I mean? That's like, I don't need no man. And it's like, girl, like, where's the harmony? Again, and I think this is where, I think when I say integrated masculine, you're thinking of like a masculine man. I'm thinking about the masculine energetic of knowing when to take action. Like, that's a masculine energetic.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for figuring.
If I'm just in my feminine, if I'm just in my feminine and I'm like, I don't need to take action, then I'm like overly compensating with my feminine energy. You know, I personally don't think feminine energy is like frolicking through a field of flowers all the time. You know, sometimes it's like, it is putting in the work. You see me at the gym, like, it's still going and putting in the work, but knowing like that at our core, at our essence, we need to be able to like relax and receive and rest. And I love that you said like the fighting thing, because war does not belong in the wombs of women. Like, let's snippet that one out. War does not belong in the wombs of women. And that's why women feel like they need to, you know, we're not made to be in like that chaotic, someone better be able to handle all of me or he ain't getting none of me. I used to be like that. I was that archetype.
Just go to the next. Oh, wow.
You better be able to, yeah. I was that archetype once upon a time too, but I couldn't handle myself.
Well, and there's a lot of generational stuff that comes with that, with pressures and norms and things that have really shifted and changed so much in the last 20 years. You know, one of the things that you said, you were talking about, you don't need to wait for a man to be in your femininity and whatnot, which is amazing, because you being in your feminine is when it's right, will attract everything that you want. It's the same way for a man, though, with his masculine. So, one of the things that I think people fail to realize is like, to find the right partner is to be the right partner, like to be ready. So like for a man, okay, we don't have a biological clock, but we have like a financial clock.
Yeah.
Like legit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you get with an 18-year-old kid, man, he's got all the testosterone in the world and he's fired up, but he has no skills. So no real value. So he's not making much money. And so he's not really worth much.
Yeah.
And so is he ready for a family? Fuck no. No. And so, with a man, it's
and he's probably the one going and getting a woman pregnant.
Well, I hope not, but then,
nowadays, you never know.
But then it's like, so then, as men age, like we don't come into our prime until we're like late 30s. Because at that point, a man now has sharpened his skills. He's hopefully built himself a solid network of people that he can work with and fall back on and get advice from and things like that. Hopefully by then he's figured a lot of things out, like number one, like how to make money, how to manage money, and he's got like some type of plan for long term because now he's thinking long term. And if he's done everything right, around 40 is when a guy is like, okay, this is what I'm good at. I know I can do this. And this is the plan, and then that's like a very masculine thing because you got to have the plan. The plan's for everyone. Do
you feel like there's anything different that a man could do, like coming from your perspective, that he doesn't have to? Do you feel like it's an age thing, or do you feel like it's having all the wild life experience that finally brings you to that point? Like, could the 18-year-old man?
I think it's different for everyone. I think it's different for everyone, but I think. It's also, it depends on where you grow up and what your goals are and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you have really huge goals and you like have this idea of like being a bodybuilder and a superhero and, whatever else, like you better just commit to like doing that. And it's going to take a long time before you become that. Yeah. But if you have the goal of, man, I just want to be able to, work for my dad's company, get my money right, get the house, get me, a great woman and start a family, well, then that person could be ready much younger.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on your goals. And I don't think that everyone needs to go live their best life. Like, not everyone needs to, like, go party in Ibiza and Amsterdam and shit like that to be able to settle down. Like, not everyone needs to do that. Like, it's not like for some it is that way. But I think that it really comes down to once a man has what he feels like a solid plan where he knows he can provide and continue to provide, then just by nature, that's when that man like wants to take care of somebody and have a family and like and at that point, because there's nothing worse for a man than doing these things unprepared, because, this is a man's world and it's a battle every day, to find your spot. And men really care about the respect of other men. And the best way you get there is by being really good at what you do, to the point where you can monetize it. And then so once you get to a point where you're able to monetize that thing that you're really good at and other men respect you for it, that's when you're there.
Yeah.
And you
it's like a tribe thing, I feel like. That like brings me back to like tribe energy.
Sure. We are very tribal as people, I think.
Yeah.
I think people are very tribal.
Back in the day, like, I mean, as much as I can know about back in the day.
Tell me about back in the day, Shanice.
I travel back sometimes. Ancient my meditation. Anyways, some ancient tribes used to put their kids, maybe not all their kids, maybe we can say the sons or whatever, in a cave. To be with like the darkness in the cave, to learn how to fight, to learn how to hunt, to do all these things. And nowadays we're growing up with social media, right? Like, don't get us started on that. It's again like,
about, though,
well, that's where it starts. A lot of women and men, as women, our initiation is meant to be from when we move into womanhood is when we get our period. But we don't really learn about that. And then men, when you guys transition from like little boys into teenagers, like you guys don't really have those initiations either, or especially nowadays. And so I just feel like that's why I asked you that question.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, that's why I asked you that question.
Well, there used to be like bullying and stuff, and I got bullied, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it was actually really good for me.
Yeah.
Because like, there's two ways you handle it. You just take it and take it and take it and take it and take it, and like you don't grow. Or you just put your foot down and think, you know what, I don't care if it kills me, but I'm going to bust this dude right in the fucking mouth.
Yeah.
You know? And like, when that happens, that's one step closer to becoming a man.
Yeah.
Because now you're like, I don't care how tough you are, you're going to know that I was a force.
Yeah.
Even if you beat me, you're not going to want to come back.
I love it.
And then that's how us men think. It's like, if I can be a great enough force for you don't ever want to try me again, then that's it. And the thing about men is like, when we fight, typically when we fight, we leave it there when it's over.
Right.
You know, if it's a fair fight, you know, whatever. And sometimes fighting is the answer. Like sometimes, like it's just, and two men can be friends after that. I can't tell you how many times I've literally rolled in the dirt or on the street with dudes and busted a dude's mouth or his eye or whatever. And when it was over, shook his hand and walked away. And then, there was another time I got in a fight when like the dude, I ended the fight with an eye gouge because I was getting tired, and he was a pretty strong guy, and like I felt like about to get position on me, so at that point I had to do whatever I had to do to win. And so I eye gouged him, and then I put it into it real quick, and he's like, I'm done. He told me to stop. And hit him one more time, so now you're done. So then I hop up to get away, and he runs up on me. I'm like, I'll let you up. I was like, I'll let you up, I promise you. I said, I promise you I'll put you down next time you get up. And he's like, no. And he was like, ah. He's like, ah. He's like, I just want to shake your hand. And I was like, what? And he was like, I've never been whipped before. He's like, it's a fair fight. Just want to shake your hand, man. He's like, you have a beer with me later? I was like, sure.
Yeah, because you guys aren't as, you guys have different emotional capacities than women do. So like you guys aren't taking it deeper than it needs to go. You're just kind of like there with it. Well,
with men, it's all about respect.
Yeah.
That's what we were at a moment where we were establishing respect.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was disrespecting me, and he felt like, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what are you going to do about it? And it's like, in that moment, I was younger, that's what I'm going to do about it. And then it is what it is, but he knew what he was doing. That's why he shook me, my hand was over, because he knows he initiated that fight. So he knows from a respect standpoint, it was his fault. And this is where like women and men are completely different. A woman will never take accountability for starting a fight, making it a whole deal and whatever. They'll always find a reason why like that was warranted.
Because they don't have an integrated masculine.
Is that what it is? Because a dude will sit here and be like, that was my fault, and we're just that way, because when it comes to like respect, once we established respect, it was on me to shake his hand, because I'd already done with him what I wanted to. I could have put him in the hospital at that point, what I mean? But that wasn't the goal. And so then when we shake hands, that means it's done. And it's like this thing, like, no one taught me this.
Right.
This is
like
how
a biological.
And then and to give you a little texture for the rest of the story here. So later that night, I was drinking heavily at a country jam concert. It's in Colorado. These are really popular. You guys in Grand Junction and everybody, you know what I'm talking about. There's like, everybody shows up. There's like bands for like days, and there's campgrounds and stuff. And that's where the fight went down. And later that night, I was by myself. And I was thinking, man, if I had to fight that guy right now, he'd definitely take me. I was thinking that. And then sure as shit, what do I see? I see him walk up with two of his buddies from far. They're staring at me, and I'm staring at them. And I'm like, well, this is when it happens. Fuck it. So I start walking over there. And I'm like, 1 on 3, I'm like, I'm just gonna hit the first guy, and just whatever happens. So then I get over there. As I get about 15 feet away, 2 of the guys wander off. I'm like, all right. And then I get closer, and it's just me and him. And he's like, hey, earlier I said, asked you to have a beer? I'm like, yeah. He reaches behind him, and he pulls this beer out, can.
Yeah.
He had one. I crack it, we cheers, and we start drinking.
Cool.
And I said, oh man, no shit, this one a little different. I thought it was gonna go. And he was just like, oh yeah? And I'm like, dude, honestly, man, like, I thought you and your boys were coming. I said, like, you definitely would have been able to take me because I've had too many, you know? And he's like, nah, man, it's done, dude. He was like, you're a tough son of a bitch, man. I said, bro, I barely got you. I had to get dirty. You know? He's like, oh, I know. And he was like, then we started talking about shit and like literally sat there and like, he's like, well, I live in Gunnison, man. He's like, you ever come up there? He's like, ask for me. His name, I don't remember his name, but his nickname was Smitty. You know?
Smitty.
And so I'm just telling
Shout out Smitty.
I'm just exactly if you
if you somehow listen to this.
and I just telling the story because like that's men.
Yeah.
And like actually he became my friend.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
And like right there, I'm literally telling him I was drunk enough that you could whip me right now. And I wouldn't have told him that if I felt like he was a threat at that time. Mm-hmm. So it was like it was over, you know what I mean? And like I only bring this up because us men function out of respect so much that like this is one of the reasons like it's very difficult to work with women in the workplace. Yeah. Okay, and let me explain this to you.
Let me hear it.
Okay. Like the biggest reservation I have personally with working with women mm-hmm. is the fact that I can't yell at them. Yeah. Because I like working with a man so I can fucking yell at him. Right. And tear him up. But if you do it with a woman, they cave. Yeah. You do it with a man, you know, they're angry and they become more productive. You do it with a woman, they cave, they can't believe you talking to me this way, your tone, they're telling her, it's a whole thing. And it's like, you should see how I talk to the dudes. Yeah. You know, and so like women can't understand this. And I think that like, this is what's difficult. This is what's difficult for a lot of men because there's like this whole equality thing, but there's not. Because the reason there's not this equality, there's not equality. The reason it's not a thing, it's a lie. Because like if me and a man were sitting here and the argument gets heated, I might hit that motherfucker.
I think it moves beyond.
Not even think about that. Yeah. So what that means is there's gonna be this line because at some point that dude's gonna either stop talking or we're gonna fight. Yeah. And I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to do in the business world, this is not what it is, but this is in the back of most men's mind. Right. Because we've been in fights and whatnot. But with a woman, they know he's not going to hit me. Mm-hmm. So there's no line. So they just do whatever they want. She has more ammo. And yet when she really doesn't, because
but if she feels like she does.
Because exactly. Yeah. And so then now guess what the dude wants to do? Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to deal with her no more. I don't care what it's got to do. I don't want it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we're not the same. Like, that ain't your role. That ain't your place. And women struggle with respect because you guys don't live there. Yeah. It's like, here's a perfect example. Walking down the street, there's people, you're on a sidewalk, and there's people walking, right? Mm-hmm. I'll be walking. I'll see a guy with a girl, a guy with a family, you know, he'll do this. I'll do this. The woman, if I walk by a woman, and there's not a man, you know, she's either trying not to make eye contact, you know, mm-hmm. or she likes the attention, you know, she's smiling. Okay. So what this dynamic is like the man is saying like, by nodding the head down, typically, I don't know you, but I'm just giving you respect. I'm passing by, whatever, territorial thing, you know, because we function out of respect. And so me being a big guy and whatever, and I see him in the family, you give him the head nod down, like, yeah, man, we're good. Like, it's like, all good, you know? This is a thing. And like women don't do that. They don't ever nod one way or the other because men are functioning constantly out of respect and territory, respect, and like situational environments encompass all that. Yeah. And women they're not even aware of it. And so then when you take this person that's not aware of it and you put her in, you know, the arena that is the battlefield of business, you're dealing with a whole different monster. And you're going to have, you know, a woman that's going to say like, oh, you know, I'm really tough, or I'm this, or I'm that, and da-da-da-da. And there's dudes going like, be as tough as you want. If you're not nice, and have the feminine qualities that I would expect, then I don't want to deal with you. I'd rather deal with a man. Yeah. Because I know the man knows there's a line where you shut the fuck up. Because like that happens, you know, like I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with people and they screw up, and it's like you get a guy to a point where they go, "You're right, I messed up, I'll fix it, I'm sorry." But with a woman, this whole accountability thing,
Yeah.
And they don't.
And this is where we went talking in the parking lot.
And it's weird. It's so weird. It's like, what is it? What is it about a woman that struggles with accountability?
It's so layered. I know I can always only come from experience and based off of like working with women. You know, I was telling you, I was just talking to the women that are in my group the other day. And I think that a big thing is again, if I'm not intentionally and actively learning what it's like to be in my own body beyond like how the external world is interacting with me, because women, like, we're very communal and like relational beings. Like we like to be seen, we like to be heard, understood. We need to be what's the word I'm looking for? We like to be acknowledged, right? Like women do.
Yeah,
women like to be
that.
acknowledged.
Yes, I understand it. Yeah.
But again, so a lot of the work that I've done is like very integrating the aspects of myself that didn't feel those things, so I could be able to at least acknowledge myself, see myself, receive myself, so I can then again show up from a place of wholeness. Like we've kind of got this like really fucked idea of like how we as women need to show up, because we again never had that initiation of what it means to really be in our womanhood. So if I never learn how to empower myself, how to talk to myself, a lot of women don't really have like a strong sense of self, right? Like we're not taught how to have healthy egos. So we go through our life and we're like, you're not seeing me, you're not hearing me, no one understands me, so I'm just gonna shut you out already. Or the woman you see on the side of the street, she doesn't even feel safe in her body, so she feels like she can't make eye contact. And then, like I just told you, I was just in Costa Rica, so guess what? I have had no choice but to put myself in situational awareness, because I've traveled to a different country by myself. It's way different energy. We're talking of it's a way different thing. And so what I feel happens based off of, like, again, my own personal perspective is we as women I like making things simple. And I think the most simple thing that we as women can do time and time again is come back to our body and come back to who I am when I'm in my womb, when I'm tending to like my emotions and I'm actually taking care of myself. My relationships, not even just with a man, in general, are going to be so different, because guess what? I'm no longer needing to fight with you because I don't need you to validate my emotions anymore.
There we go.
Like, honestly, I did this a lot in my past partnership. I'd be like, I'm sad. And I'd like want him to, you know what I mean? Like I'd want him to do something about
What's
it.
What's wrong? How can I fix it?
And I'd be like, I don't know. So what do you want me to do? And I'd be crying and he'd be like, I don't know what to do.
No idea what to do.
I would literally go, and this is so funny, I would literally, like, as we were in our relationship, if I would cry and I felt like my emotions were like too big for myself, I would go like hide in the closet because I was so overwhelmed with my own emotional state, right? So I just think we as women, I've had to learn through experience, how can I actually learn to not live in an emotional roller coaster and actually, again, relax, rest, receive, be more in that feminine nature, so that way, like you were saying before, there's no longer anything to fight. Like we as women, we feel like we need to like overly protect ourselves from the world, not just men, but like the world. And then, you know, I live with teenagers, my stepsisters, they're always talking about how they're scared about being kidnapped. Like women are genuinely scared to be
Meanwhile, they're watching murder mysteries all night, every day,
right?
Trying to figure it out, solve the case.
And simultaneously not learning how to feel safe in our bodies. So this really comes back to how is a woman cultivating her own sense of wholeness. So that way, I love what you said. It's not about, I don't think, we need to get like equality off of our heads and think more of unity.
Sure.
Like how can we actually live in unity? Because it's not about being equal. There's always going to be somebody that you feel like is better than, or whatever. Like we we're primal, we're competitive, or these things, but how can I show up? I think this just goes back to like, this is the work that I do, right? It's coming back to how do I uniquely get to show up in the world from this place? Because then life is going to match me instead of me feeling like life is like against me. And I think that we as men and women both do that. Like we feel like life is against us instead of like embracing it and taking accountability and taking responsibility. So just to go into that too, it's like, if I feel safer in my body, I'm going to naturally take more self-responsibility over my life because I'm not fighting anymore. I'm like, you know what? At this point, yeah, I just fucking accept that and I take responsibility for that. What am I gonna do? Be victim about it?
Nice.
Go and talk to 10 other women about it and do what women do, or they're just like blah, 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 like yapping and nothing's changing.
Nothing happens.
Nothing's changing because we're not coming back to our bodies. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have that. Like, we need a space like you and us in the parking lot, like venting and ranting and all these things. But
Sure.
what's really changing? And if you look at nature, which is like the feminine, nature is always changing. It's in constant motion. It's in constant life and death, rebirth, all the things.
I mean, it's constantly changing, but it's always the same.
Exactly.
I mean,
so it has a stillness.
it's an order.
Yes.
There's just an order.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
chaos.
and you know, and when you bring up nature, you know, you talk about like we could look at like you know lions, you know, and the lionesses,
but they're still feminine.
but they have their roles,
yeah.
you know, and like they don't talk about it. I mean, maybe they do. We don't know.
Yeah. What do we know? Sorry, lions,
you know,
not trying to take your shine.
I mean, but okay, so you have a women's group. What's it called?
Well, it's not really called anything. It's a group program that I started back in December, and it's called Emergence. So,
okay, so it's called Emergence.
It's called Emergence.
I just wanted to bring it up because if you're teaching women how to...
Oh, so my program that I was telling you about, my school is called Womb of Creation.
There it is.
The Medicine of You.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I want to make sure that you guys hear that.
Womb of Creation.
Check it out, because if you're giving women any kind of instruction on like how to be a woman, how to be feminine, how to do these things, like I feel like you have a pretty good perspective on the different topics we talked about, from the masculine and feminine, because nowadays everybody acts very confused.
Yeah.
I will say this, I only know what it's like from my male perspective over here, and I know that like when I have purpose, life's good.
Yeah.
No matter how hard it is, like when I'm focused on this goal, like life is good. Like when I have this purpose. And that's what most young men today lack, is purpose.
Purpose.
And I think a lot of people do in general. And,
yes.
Something
that they really feel like they get to show up for with excitement, like a mission.
And that's why a lot of people love being a dad or having kids and things like that, because like at their job, maybe it's a 9 to 5, maybe they've been there for years, maybe they're not happy with the way things are, and at home they get to be like, I've created this family unit and I've been able to provide. And, men, we always like to provide. It's a funny thing, like it's as soon as we make a bunch of money, we just want to take care of everybody.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just how we are.
Yeah.
Like it's like
You're wired that way.
It makes us feel good.
Yeah.
Like it makes a man feel good to like give and like watch everybody like receive. It's a strange thing. Like, and I, from my experience, I see women to be the opposite. Like, I could talk from different experiences, but I talked to a girl one time and she was telling me how much money she was making and how it was going. And I'm like, so. And she wasn't married, she doesn't have kids, and she's in her 30s. And I'm like, so what's like the goal? Well, eventually I want to get with a guy. My last guy didn't like it, because he said, if I provide, everything, why do I need this and that and da-da-da? And I'm like, was he providing everything? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, why? Well, just, what if, things don't work out and da-da-da? And I'm like, I can understand that. I'm like, but...
That's why I feel women need to be living in their gifts too, but from a different way.
It's just tough because it's like we've really like tried to push women like in all of our sports and then like in all of our stuff in the military and like law enforcement and all that. And like I will say this, okay? Like when I was younger, I was very ornery, and there's different times I spent a little time in jail, okay? And I will say this, like, there is absolutely no fucking reason you should have a female jail cop coming through an all-male facility. Right, no. All it did was create tension for all of us.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, she didn't even look good, and she started looking good. And you know what's messed up about it? Yeah. She wouldn't make eye contact with nobody.
Because she probably could feel all that tension.
And so it's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
So why are you here? Because
like, do you actually feel like you could step in if you guys got in a fight right now?
No, it was like the word on the street was that she was at a medium to like high security prison, and like, God, got gang raped or something by whatever. This is like that's why everybody said why she wouldn't make eye contact. And this is like a minimum security situation. That was just, it's probably all lies, but because it's just whatever. But at the end of the day, it was talked about amongst everyone because there was that tension. And it's like, I don't care what fucking quota the government tries to say you got to fill and whatever. Like, that is nothing but negative energy creating problems. Yeah. And like, what does she feel so good about herself because she's able to create tension for all those guys?
Yeah.
Does that make her happy?
Unconsciously, she's getting some type of benefit out of it. Probably not actually benefiting her, but that's what we as humans do. We're like, I'm going to do this thing that I think is bringing me benefit, but it's actually not at all. But no, I love what you're saying, because I think that again, this comes back to a woman, like how you said, like a man needs to have some type of purpose. A woman needs to have a sense of self, especially in a relationship, right? Because I've been in relationships in the past where I was really building my sense of self, and then when I would get in the relationship, I would start to lose it, and it would the woman really feeds the relationship, because the woman brings more of that, just again that relational, like you said,
women are real great. Sorry to cut you off here. The women are really great at like this emotional piece of the relationship, because us dudes, we don't think about shit.
Right. No, yeah, you guys
We're
are
just trying to kick ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm just trying to go make money and be badass.
So think about a woman.
Good,
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, but we don't spend time together.
Yeah.
Remember, we used to always go for drives. We don't go anymore. You're like, okay.
And you're like, you're fucking right. And you're like more in your emotions.
So women do that, and it's not that it's wrong. Right? It's like a thing. Like, guys are not thinking about that.
If I had a man, like if I were in if I were able to be, I love what you're saying. The woman was like, okay, but what happens if me and the partner break up? Then what if the partner's providing and I can't provide for myself? Whatever. Sure. I feel that, again, women need to be, and I don't like to be so absolute and say need if you want, but I feel that women need to be rooted in their gifts and their wisdom, and like, back in the day, women were creating all the medicines, and they were with the herbs, and they were with the land and the garden and all these things. Women were disassociated from that now, to a point that, like, again, if a woman doesn't have a sense of self and I'm in a partnership, it doesn't matter if he's providing for me, because I have no sense of self. If I have a sense of self and I'm making some money, but I know that he's providing for me, then I'm going to be even more my feminine, because not only is this man providing, but I'm also living in a strong sense of self. I'm also living in mission, not in an overly masculine, like hustling type of way, but I'm living in a type of mission where I get to have a rest day while I'm bleeding and I'm in the garden, like stuff like that. I just had to learn over the years, because I think, like, honestly, like moving back in with my mom has helped me be in my feminine, because I don't have to worry about I'm not paying rent right now.
See, this is the.
So guess what? Having that support, having that masculine container. My stepdad, he has a gun in the house. Guess what? That helps me feel really safe, and like I can sleep at night, right? Like little things like that feed. And I've thought about this because last year I was being so entitled about it. Like I was more so like shaming myself for living back at home, and I couldn't fully see the level of support that was there, because I was trying to still be in that overly masculine output. Yeah. This
for a man, not good.
Right.
Woman, it's okay.
I'm like, we need to relax and surrender.
Okay. You're better off around family. You're better off there.
Guess what?
You're building and you're.
So I feel like I can be in my feminine, because it's not that I don't. There's energy exchange, of course. Like I love being able to like help my mom, and women need that type of help. So I love being able to help my mom and be around my family. But at the end of the day, if I don't feel safe with that, I'm going to unconsciously push it away, right? Because again, like, if I don't feel safe being supported as a woman or receiving as a woman, then I'm going to sabotage it, fight against it, get defensive about it, project onto it, do anything in my power to fight it, right? Because I don't feel safe to receive, because again, I don't have a sense of self, and I'm not really like in my body. When I say like in my body as a woman, our womb, like this lower half of our body, we are meant to be like grounded inside of it. because women are more geared towards that masculine, they're living up here. They're living like up here.
It's so strange.
We need to be like more down here, and then use the mind when it really matters, when we need to really take action and think critically and all these things. But at the end of the day, a woman's meant to be like able to just be in her body. Workouts are better.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta,
And you're still going to be productive. I met a woman on a flight one time, and I called her to my friends. I'm like, dude, she was from Portugal, so I call her like the Portugal Yoda. Yeah. Because she was like 70 and she was nice looking, when you sit in first class, you meet interesting people.
Oh, I bet.
Not always the guarantee when you're anywhere else on the plane. But, we got to chatting, and she was like, I have 4 businesses. And I said, how did that happen? She's like, I didn't plan any of them. And I never planned for any of them.
Definitely a more feminine way of being.
And I said, well, then how did it happen? She was like, I just feel my life through. I just feel my way through. She was like, if something doesn't feel right, she's like, I don't do it. If it feels right, then I do it. And she was like, and so some opportunities present themselves, and it felt right, and so I did it. And I'm like, are you married? She's like, yeah. I said, how long have you been married? And she's married like, I don't know, 40, some 50 years, like forever, And I'm like, you have kids? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I can tell you're really happy. And she's like, I'm really happy. She's like, she was like, I love my husband, love my kids, and she's telling me about what's going on. But like, the thing that stuck with me from her was she said, just listen to what feels right and wrong. And if it feels right, just feel it through. So even if you're in a relationship or if you work or whatever. And I think that is
not bypassing.
I think that is a thing where every woman claims to be good at that. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have higher emotional intelligence. No, you don't.
No.
But when a woman does, I think you get Portugal Yoda. Mm-hmm. I think she was like peak like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But at
that's the feminine way.
But at the same time, she's married this whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she's able
to be in her feminine.
Under the protection of her husband.
Yeah.
Which is like a very natural thing because now the husband's happy.
Yeah.
Because he's still providing and she's doing all this awesome stuff and it works out and then they both win.
Yeah.
Because they
both win, right? You're not taking anything from me and I'm not taking anything from you. Mm. I'm able to live here in my reality. You're able to live there in your reality, but our realities come into unity, right? And so I just think that, like, you said something that she said where she didn't plan it, right? When a woman is truly like surrendered, she can take the action from that type of place where it's like, I'm surrendered, but I'm taking a surrender type of action where I'm not penetrating as much. I am showing up from that place of like in my magnetism, in my radiance, in my vitality and all these things. But again, like there's like I don't like to be so absolute about it again, but there is like a war. We can call it that. Just I like using extreme language. A war on women's bodies.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Right, because there's women. I read this email from a mentor of mine, and she literally said there's like thousands and thousands of women that are getting their wombs removed because they're in pain and because they don't understand how like the. Oh my God!
A lot of that.
I could go.
A lot of that is probably endometriosis, and I know how to fix that.
Endometriosis, PMS, PMDD, women are like the bipolar, blah, blah, blah. And it all points back to our womb space because, again, we never had the initiation. We hate our periods instead of seeing them for this conversation. Sorry, it gets me so fired up with me.
Okay.
Instead of seeing like the sacredness, bring it. This is the type of fire I like to bring. Wouldn't hurt a fly, though. There was like a bee in the house earlier and I don't like bees and I like couldn't, I was just like, please shoo, like I don't want to kill you, I don't want to do anything. But I'll like, it's the brothers thing. I grew up like wrestling my brothers basically, so it just, and it gets to be fun in that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just think that like, when we approach this from a place of like, my body is sacred, my body is the temple, my womb is my throne, and I'm meant to be here.
Sure.
Then a man can actually go and do, and even if we're not just talking like a woman and a man in a relationship, men in our society like, I think when I'm thinking about doing women's work, I'm also thinking about the men in our collective and the men in our society that don't feel like they can really even be men anymore because of feeling so intimidated by women. Because women are, not that they're actually intimidated, but women are starting to take a lot of those roles, like you were saying, that it's kind of put our collective in an energetic imbalance. And
there's a lot of
now I was telling my stepsister before I came here, because she was just in a relationship and she's in high school, you know what I mean? But I was like, I'm about to go have a conversation about how these men are basically like being pansies nowadays, and like the women are like, I got it.
You know what's crazy is like I shake hands with everybody the same.
Yeah.
With women, I typically...
With a handshake? I have a good handshake.
Okay.
Yeah.
The women, I typically give a little softer grab, but with men, like, I grab their hand.
Right, like you're like...
Like, I'm letting you know, like, I'm here, nice to meet you, I'm a force.
Yeah.
I look you right in the eyeball, this is my moment. And I teach young men to do that. But when I shake hands with young men, they always give me the soft hand. And if they're, under 18, I'm like, no, we gotta do that again.
Yeah.
I'm like, grab my hand. Mm-hmm. And I can look me in the eye.
Look me in the eye, yeah. Yes.
And they're like, what's your name? And I tell them.
Teenage boys need that so deeply.
Yeah, but typically, like, shaking your hand, you have, like, a really firm handshake. Like, most women have a stronger handshake. So what has happened in society that has made
women are the ones looking you in the eyes.
Yeah, and being more masculine in this moment than men. Mm-hmm. What has happened?
It's an energetic...
absolutely wrong.
I don't, and it's not a coincidence.
No,
I don't think it's a coincidence, because I think that the war on women's bodies and men becoming more feminine, it's a psyop to basically create an energetic imbalance. If there's an energetic imbalance and men and women aren't coming together and creating new generations or serving the younger generation or like whatever it is, or again living in some type of like purpose and mission, then what we see is like the world becoming more digital.
Yeah.
Right? Where men are no longer going out and having to fight and do these things, and women can just make money off their phones, which I make money on my phone, which is great. But if a woman can just make money off her phone, why does she feel like she needs a man if she feels like she doesn't need anyone to provide for her? Because
and this is a tough situation, because
how did we get here?
It's like, there's been this softening of men, and they even tried to create a fake term called toxic masculinity.
Right, and
not even a fucking real term.
Which again is like it puts another.
Because if we say toxic masculinity, then we got to say there's toxic femininity.
Right.
There's just you don't get to have one without the other.
No.
And so it's
there's
like,
healthy and there's unhealthy.
Basically we're either talking about somebody with an ego or somebody not. I mean, it's kind of, but what happens is when you can soften up men as a whole, the world, you can control their world, because men, we run the world. And so there's nothing more dangerous than a man that loves God, fears God, loves his family, will die for his family, has a purpose, and is out every day grinding and adding value where he can, building strength in relationships to his own accord, not following some narrative that says, oh, you got to be scared of this, or oh, you have to worry about that, or there's nothing more dangerous than a man that's powerful. Like and he's an independent thinker. Like that man is like, if I was a government and I wanted to control people, I wouldn't want him. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want him in the mix. And so that's, I think, why we've seen everything from, the news, TV and movies, social agendas and stuff pushed to really quell the spirit of the man. Because, it's... I watch these, I don't like to watch them, but I see they come through, and, there was a moment where I was checking them out, but if you see these red pill guys and the people that get the OnlyFans girls on there, and they just basically shame them to death and tell them, just how ridiculous they are and whatnot. It's like, we're not accomplishing anything. Yeah. We're not getting anywhere. I think instead of doing that and giving them even more attention and a platform, what we ought to do is just focus on rewarding the women that have the qualities that we like. Mm-hmm. Because here's the deal, typically women are followers and men are leaders. This is how it goes. So like when a woman gets with a man so many times, if that man's into racing, he's into guns, he's into boating, she's going to be into those things.
Which is why we go back and we say a woman, I don't say should not, but not waiting for a man for those things, because then she can learn how to be in that leadership within herself. And then the man, because there's such a paradox to like what I'm saying, because it's like, if I don't even know how to lead my own life, or not even say lead my own life because I don't, God leads, but if I can't surrender to God leading my life and I'm not even submitting to that, then I'm definitely not going to, I'm either going to attach to a man and do everything that he's doing, or I'm going to let him completely step all over me. And I think there's like a balance of...
Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. So it's like this, paradox. like when you around a man that is very capable, and he's very powerful, like let's say the man is super successful, he's got a strong network, he's in great shape, he's in great health, people respect him or whatnot. Like the woman that gets with him is going to just have to be on board with what he's doing. Because like at the end of the day, like with or without her, he's going to kick ass. And if she's smart, she can be part of that. But if she's not smart, she's going to convince herself she can do better than that. And the chances of her doing better than that are going to leave her feeling empty.
I think she needs that too, though.
And sad and alone.
I think she needs that too, though.
What's that?
A strong network and something that she's living by and a sense of self and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just think that at the end of the day, like, when you look at like how people come together, like a man isn't going to get with a woman and then be doing everything she wants him to do, because first of all, as soon as a man starts catering to the woman, she won't respect him,
right?
Because now he's not masculine because she's masculine, and so now he looks feminine to her, and then now she's got the ick, and it was a fail. So when the dude just sticks on his grind doing what he's doing, and it's like, I'm going up the mountain with or without you. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've had relationships myself, with beautiful women, and there was times in the relationship where I would say, like, I remember I was with a girl and we were in Vegas together and we were living there for a little bit, and I said, like, I'm moving to the beach. My little brother passed away, and so I was not knowing what's going on, and so I'm like, I'm moving to the beach. And I didn't have anything figured out, and she was like, well, I'm thinking about getting this job at the pool because it pays really well. And I said, hey, if that's what you want to do, I support that, right on. This fucking train's leaving. So if that's what you're doing, I support you, no problem. It'll be cool, but like I'm going. So, and she was like, whoa. She's like,
so you're talking like...
She's like, I want to go with you. She's like, but you just have to promise me no matter what, you will make it work. And I said, oh, fucking make no mistake. I ain't going out there to fucking fail. I don't fail the fucking things I want to do. I said, I'm fucking going. I said, you fucking coming or not? We're going. And she's like, so you're sure? I'm like, I'm fucking positive. And she's like, all right. And then like we went and everything worked out and it was great and it brought us very close together, and I think this comes down to that masculine umbrella. Yeah. Because now she's with me, and then when we got where we were at, then she got, a little job doing some different things, kind of the similar things in the same area, and it was awesome. Yeah. And so it's like, what did she really give up? Because, at the end of the day, like, we were living right on the sand in Hermosa Beach, which was really cool.
I hear you, and I still feel like this doesn't change, like, okay, this doesn't change me having like a sense of self and a mission and a purpose and all these things, right? I can still follow your lead. I can still surrender to your lead, but that doesn't change the fact that women need community and they need, like you're saying, like network, right?
Sure. She did the same. It's like, and I think we're saying the same thing, because she just needed to know that like I was going to take care of things without her worrying about it.
She didn't have to stay and get a job.
She didn't want to have to just worry about it all. Yeah. Because she knew she had an opportunity
and then she could give more to her mission.
To not worry where she was at. Yeah. She could get a job and not worry, But where she was at, I got her the job where she was at. So, like, when we were in Vegas, like, the way it happened, but I just made a phone call. And I said, hey, and with my network and people I know, and my buddy said, well, where does she want to work? And I'm like, well, where do you want to work? And she was like, what? And so we figured it out, and that's how it happened. So then from there, it was like, when I was ready to go, it's like, and so this is what I talk about, like, it's a man's world. And so, like, if I can make a phone call, and get, a man to say, yeah, I'll put your girlfriend to work wherever she wants in Vegas. Just tell me where she wants to work. And I'll push it through.
Yeah.
I'm able to do that based off of respect, and the only way you get respect is by being of value, Well,
there's the king and the queen. Well, you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, but what I mean in this situation is what I'm getting at is, like, that guy's not trying to fuck me.
Yeah.
And so, like, you see what I mean?
No.
He just out of respect, you know what I mean? He's like, of course I got you, because he's like, sees me as a value, so let me take care of this guy. So that my cool, thanks, right on, boom, boom. Now you flip the script and you got a woman making calls to a guy like that, Yeah. It's a completely different dynamic.
Oh yeah, and I don't want to be the one making calls.
And this is just where, like, we fall into this, like, you can try to say that we can try to say that we're all the same, and the society can try to say that we're all the same, and it can try to push us in all these different directions to do things that are uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But when we just focus on doing the things that come naturally and are comfortable
to our own selves,
then it all works out.
If I have a sense of self and you have a sense of self, and I am more in my feminine and you're more in your masculine, then there's, like, no reason as to why it can't totally flow together. I think that it gets to be much more simpler than what we see. And if I understand, like, as I like to say, understanding, if I understand the simplicity of, like, oh, I just need to, like, take care of this temple and this body and feel good in my body and be feminine and be woman, that's all. That's my job here. Then I can show up from that place in a much different way, where I can, again, even in my previous partnership, he was willing to provide things in ways that no other relationship, it was like a shocker to me. Like, I had never experienced a relationship where the man was willing to provide in the ways that he was.
Was he older than you?
No. Which is funny. Yeah. But he was in the military, so I feel like he came from...
They're taught traditions, and they're taught these things. Typically, military men are just very masculine.
Yeah.
Because they're with dudes all the time. Like this.
Yeah. He was very grounded, and, like, he brought that, and I was like, I didn't know how to receive it. Right? So again, like, our relationship was a huge catalyst for me realizing, like, it was a huge catalyst because I had to take a lot of self-responsibility and account. And of course, like, there was things on both ends, but I had to take so much self-accountability because it was like, I became so used to him providing in a way that I lost my sense of self. And so that's why I keep coming back to the man I feel like the man is meant to be the provider, but the woman needs a sense of self and a mission and to feel good in her body. Because we feed, like, you guys feed off of our energy at the end of the day. Yeah, so if I'm not bringing the energy, then you're not even going to want to provide.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than the woman's just, like, sad and down and lost and all the time. Like, it's great when, the woman that you're with has a purpose. She's like, I'm doing this thing, and at the same time, and it's like, you watch, like, women when they get in their feminine, they, like, love taking care of their man too.
Yeah, they love taking care of people.
They do.
They love taking care of their community.
It's crazy because, like, here's the thing, like, like, when I think about, like, children,
I love taking care of people. My clients are like my little babies.
Sure.
I love taking care of people.
I always say this. I always say, man, it'd be cool if kids just popped out at, like, 10 years old. Because for like a man, it's like. But those early years are for the woman, and you
breastfeeding,
are just
nurturing.
amazing. You're amazing with children, and it's supposed to be that way because men are supposed to be out crushing it. Mm-hmm. But then once the little boy is about ready to start becoming a man, then guess what happens? Mm-hmm. You start being hard on that kid.
Yeah.
Maybe you push him down, so he knows, like, I'm a force. Mm-hmm. You're not. Yeah. And you keep doing it. And you keep doing it until that kid realizes, like, whoa, dude, dad's badass. And this is, like, teaching him what the world's like because, if a man isn't hard on his child, he's not doing him a justice. The harder the man is, and the more men are critical. We're very critical. One of the things that I wanted to bring up in here was that men are very critical all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. This is how we are because we like to know how things work. We can't help it. We like to fix things and whatnot. And one thing we learn over time is that life is very difficult, and the only way to be prepared is to go through very tough experiences. And so, like, a man will tell his kid, Like when he's like, oh yeah, look, you know, Dad, I got, you know, 97%. You miss one?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I only missed one. I'm like, why'd you miss it? You know, but I'm dead serious. You know, like, why couldn't you get them all right? You know? You know, and then like you're like, oh my God, but he got 97. You know, this is awesome because you got the woman that's going to be supportive, you know, but then you got the man coming in and saying like, this ain't good enough.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And so by me...
And having the balance of the woman and the man.
By me being critical and trying to figure out why you didn't ace it, because I know that my flesh and blood is capable of acing it, like, why didn't you? I'm actually doing you a favor.
Yeah.
Because if I don't be this person, because what will happen is he'll go away and go, I didn't feel very good. I thought I did good.
Yeah.
And Dad thinks I suck. And then, you know, he'll say, and then you'll be like, it's okay, babe. And then you'll nurture him. And he'll be like, thanks. But in the back of his mind, he's like, fucking Dad thinks I suck.
And you do better.
And then the dad does. He's like, dude, you're not badass until you're badass. And it's like, I'm not doing this because I don't love you. I'm actually doing it because I love you.
Yeah.
And this is where, like one thing I see all the time.
I wish that, like, coming from, I didn't grow up with my dad around. And then so I haven't seen my biological father since I was 3. And then my dad that my brothers have, he basically helped raise me, but he was just, like, in and out. So he wasn't fully there. And, like, hearing you, I feel like I would have, I wish I would have grown up with more of like that fatherly figure energy that you're speaking of. And I think that a lot of women would really benefit from them because guess what? If I grew up with a fatherly figure that protected and provided and did all these things, guess what? I'm going to actually grow up feeling safer to be in my feminine. At a young age, I learned that it wasn't safe to be a little girl in my feminine energy because I had to grow up fast and help my mom with my brothers, right? So I love that we're talking about this because the way that you're talking about a kid being raised is like where it needs to start. Mm-hmm. So we can come here and be where we are now in the first place and not have to even be having this conversation because as children, we learned like, okay, honey, like here's your initiation. You're going to be moving through your initiation. You're with your son and you're like, you can be better, blah, blah, blah. The kid's going to grow up and he's going to feel nurtured, but he's going to know he can always excel and move forward and doesn't get lazy and ends up just like spending his life on the couch because he never had a father who pushed him. And it all starts there.
And the thing is, the funny thing for like a man and a woman is like, okay, so having a man raise any child, you know, a girl, boy, it's so important because a man is so critical and he's always going to want the best for you, and the only way he knows that is to be critical. Mm-hmm. Where like a woman, you know, you guys are nurturers and caregivers, and it's just hard to be super critical because you just want to love the kid, you know, and that's great.
Feel like he did the best he could.
And the problem is we see a lot of men that have been raised by women.
Yes.
And they fucking suck. Yes. These dudes fucking suck. Because a couple things will happen. Sometimes
they don't have that fatherly figure.
Sometimes the mom will convince the child that the dad was such a piece of shit. That's why he's not around and whatever. So then what will happen is this kid will grow up later on to believe everything women say and become like a woman pleaser, and then be completely unsuccessful with women because they walk all over him because he thinks he's used to his mom always being right and telling the truth and all these things. When truth be told, there's probably a whole lot more to the story. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And maybe fucking Pop would have liked to have been around, but Mom was fucking it up for everybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, but then if we scale back, it's like, okay, so my dad was really hard on me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure he didn't even like me until I was maybe like a senior in high school. And like at that point, I still like, I'm dead serious.
It's only funny because
I mean,
pretty sure he didn't even like you.
Yeah, like I'm dead serious. And like at the time it sucked. I mean, I always felt like, why does he treat Jake this way?
See, right now I want to be like, but you did the best you could.
Of course, right? This is.
I'm like, he probably loved you so much.
And here's the thing, and like, but at the end of the day, you know, you got to understand when I was a kid, I had cancer. And then having cancer, you know, I was like a bubble boy and I was coddled. And my dad was like this really masculine stud athlete, you know, 13 scholarships for football at a high school and just like, fastest guy on the football team, 6'5", 220, just and liked to fight all the time. And like my dad, like my dad's big dream was to like be like killed in a gunfight. That was like what my dad.
He was ready.
Like my dad was just probably one of the most irresponsible people I ever met. Mm-hmm. But he was just like this force.
He set the tone for you.
Well, he was basically like, fuck you. You ain't shit. The fuck out of here. And I remember being like, and then he catered to my older brother, and like my dad, he didn't do things like right, but what dad does, right? But when I think back and I think about it all, like it bothered me so much that he forced me to grow. Because I'm like, I'll show you, motherfucker. Like, what? Like, I remember one time he told me I was a sophomore, and I just went through like a growth spurt, grew like half a foot in the last year. Mm-hmm. And I lost a lot of coordination when that happened. My strength went down. I was actually stronger as a ninth grader than I was as a sophomore because his limbs got longer, and like the muscle didn't go with it. And he told me one time after a football game, I ended up getting put in at the end of the game in the varsity, and I scored like 2 points on a conversion or whatever, but the rest was like, it was very little. And he just literally, when it was over, he told me, he's like, if I were you, I wouldn't even let you fucking suit up.
Yeah.
He was like, you shouldn't even be out there on the field. He's like, coach should play his best 11 guys. Like, you ain't it. He's like, you gotta be riding the fucking line until you're good enough to be out. He's like, I don't believe in this all, like everyone plays shit. He was like, and he's going on, and he's like, but Jake, you kicked ass. He's
because it teaches people like convenience and.
Well, and it crushed me in that moment. Like when he was saying those things, like, in that moment, it was like you don't want to hear your dad just basically say that you just suck, But it's crazy. So like my mindset from that moment, because I can still hear the words. I remember being like, all right, here's the deal. Okay, my junior year, I'm going to come out. And I'm going to go as hard as I can at this sport. And if it's not all the things that he talks about and everyone talks about being so great, I'm not wasting my time on it my senior year. I'm just going to stick to fucking bodybuilding and shit, and that's what I'm going to do. So I came out like no playing time, right? Like sophomore year. Junior year, I still was growing. I grew another 2.5 inches,
Wow.
So now I'm even taller, and I'm like 6'4". I'm still growing, But I worked out all summer squatting twice a week, and I put in the work. I put 100 pounds on my squat, and so it made me faster, and so that was cool, And so I came out, and I went as hard as I could go, and my coach said to me, Aaron, I don't know what got into you over summer. He says, but you're hands down the most intense player we have on the team. And he's like, so I have to find a spot for you on the field. And I'm just like, yes, And so he put me on a kickoff team, and he put me as like kill man on the kickoff team. And so that's like the spot where you just run down the field and like hammer the wall, try to get the guy with the ball, And so that was my starting position my junior year. And like, I crushed it. And then like everyone got behind me and everyone saw what I was doing. And then it even got my dad's attention. Then my dad started saying things like, he's like, I don't know why they put that fucking, Kevin in front of you and da-da-da-da-da. So it's like, there was this unique dynamic for me.
Yeah.
So there was like, I came into my own, and then I was a defensive end, and because I was taller, but I had that spot secured on the kickoff team. That was my spot. So I had a starting spot in the varsity team, which was awesome. It's cool, it like felt great. But then as like a defensive end, there was the principal's son was one of the defensive ends. So like he's starting. He's the principal's son. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like of course. Yeah. Why is the principal's son starting? And then there
was the son of the woman that ran the fundraiser for the football team. He's starting.
So you have like the favorites.
So I wasn't starting,
Yeah.
So and then by mid-season, my dad was just pissed at the coaches that I wasn't starting, and so then I'm like, and it felt so good because now I'm getting this recognition and validation I didn't have. And so,
but it's because you went and you took what he said and you put in the work.
Because that's how men are.
Yeah.
No, because that's how men are. And that's the whole point of this story is like, if you're hard on a man, he'll do better.
He'll do better.
The harder you are on, the better you do. That's why, like, if you listen to, like, my content, you know, when I do my pull reels, I'm, like, shouting and telling people not to be fucking sissies and all kind of shit. Because, you know what? Most men need to hear that. Yeah. Like, no, you're not good enough. Yeah. Like, how much money do you make a year? $100 grand? That ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, make $1 million a year, you know? And then when you do that, you better be trying to make 10. You know, it's like, and I you know, have this perspective because I know that, like, before my dad passed away, you know, he told me when I was like 35, he said, you know, son, I never met anybody like you before. He was like, you know, you turned out very different than I ever thought. He's like, I never thought you'd be this person. Yeah. And then he went on to say, he's like, you remind me of my dad. Oh. I was like, what? He was like, what? He was like, you know, Pop always had a plan. He's like, you always have a plan. He's like, every time I talk to you. And he's like, and you don't stop, and you just keep going. And he was like, you know, who you were when you were a kid and who you are now. He's like, he's like, you've come so far. He's like, you can't quit. He's like, you have to see this thing through. I don't care what it costs. Yeah. You have to see it through. And it was like the most validating conversation I ever had with my pop. Yeah. And
that really plays a role in the ways that you can.
It took me till I was like 35 to get it. Yeah. Think about that. Yeah. You see, this is where men and women are so very different. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I just bring that up because it's like, if you have a man in the house, he's going to be very critical on everyone. And then at the same time, if he's in the house with a daughter, she's going to understand that men are critical. So as a woman gets older and she has a relationship with a man, when he becomes critical with her, you know, she's going to understand this is not him being an asshole or whatever. Oh my God, this is how men are. So
funny you say that. Yeah. I was just... Part of me taking self-responsibility was like, when I would like flash back on conversations with my ex, I'd be like, damn, bro, he was fucking right. He was fucking right. He was just being honest and direct. He wasn't being like overly critical, but he was just like trying to like, you know, talk to me. And I didn't have the capacity yet to be with that. So I love that you said that because again, like I needed that catalyst so I could actually, that's why I'm so seemingly probably stubborn about my perspective because I'm really big on like,
I don't think you're stubborn. I think you just feel what you feel. You know, I like it.
Yeah, cool. I had to learn, like, okay, I need to learn how to show up in life from this place before I'm trying to build a life with somebody and create a relationship with somebody. Because if I'm like crumbling in my own thing, then how am I ever going to be able to show up to a relationship? Right, or show up to a dynamic.
This is why you guys got to join her women's group. You girls out there need to join her women's group because, like, you totally get it. Like
live and learn.
The fact that you're learning. Yeah, a lot of people live kind of.
Well, I grew up around athletes. I was basically born an athlete. My mom was playing basketball while she was pregnant with me. Okay. So I think that a lot of that comes from like watching my brothers. Right, so because my thing is always like grow, evolve, like self-improve, all the things, but bringing like a feminine twist into it, not in a way where I'm bypassing, but in a way where I'm like feeling my stuff and all the things, but I'm not spending like days and weeks at a time in an emotional collapse. I can feel and come into my body and all the things and then take action or come to a solution without being like, oh, you know, like the feminine collapse or whatever, right? Yeah. And then I can be, I guess that's what we would call toxic femininity, right? It's like, yeah, blame the emotional states. How long are we going to say it's because it's, and then don't get me started on when we as women learn that we can just like blame it on our periods. No, our period isn't even supposed to feel like crap.
This is the reason, you're right, for a lot of a lack of accountability for women is there's always like a scapegoat. There's always something you can pawn off.
It's this. It's because and then we go on this path and we're like, well, you know, my trauma. Yeah. It's like, okay.
It's like, yeah, life sucks. We all got some. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
we all have trauma. We were born. You know, like
our parents aren't perfect. No. You know, hey, everybody watch out there. Your parents aren't perfect.
They did the best they could.
They're doing the best they can. They're even doing it right now. You know what I mean?
What you're feeling is still valid.
Yeah, it's just, you know, they're people that made other people.
Yeah. But I can be more in my feminine when I am learning how to cultivate these things within myself before I think that a man can, because again, like that happened in my previous relationship. I had never even planned a life with somebody, and we were talking about getting a place together. We were talking about all these things, and I was like freaked out because I just like, I hadn't been in a relationship that was like serious in that way before. And I was like, oh.
Well, at the same time, and you know, I'm probably part of this situation as well, is like we're not all taught to just get together, have a family, that's what we're going to do.
At all.
Or somehow we're both taught to independently be strong, to not be together.
And like kind of like hide that from each other in a way.
Well, it's almost like, it's like society says, no, you don't need to be together. You just need to get a career and a purpose and a job. And a woman, like, you don't need a man.
Feed each other.
We have all this, you know, programs and things we can do to help you. And all, it's like, but when really you make the family unit, that's the most powerful thing. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, someday I'm going to have kids. And, you know, I'm probably going to want lots of kids when I finally get there. Because for me, it's always like I wanted to get to a certain spot. And then, like, financially, I want to be at a certain spot, and that's why I have a lot of kids. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, let's do this, you know. But like, I would want my woman to raise them full time, teach them, you know, school them, everything. Because I don't want no outside influence of my unit. And that is the opposite of what the government wants.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me started on our school systems.
You know, and so for me, that's what I would want, because I'm like, no, we're going to...
Like, why are we learning our times tables instead of how to connect to God?
Yeah, well, I mean, why is it not part of it? Why are we not learning how to eat?
Yeah.
Why are we being fed these lies? Like,
or how to garden and grow our own food and all these things that make us sovereign beings.
Or like, why are we not taught to stay curious?
Yeah.
You know, Albert Einstein had a quote that I love, that I reflect on all the time. He said, "It's very rare to see a man's curiosity outlast his formal education."
Wow.
You know, I made a post recently about a guy that ate all these eggs, ate 24 eggs a day.
Wow.
And he was doing this to see what it would do to his cholesterol, because we're told that they're bad, right? Yeah. So he ate all these eggs, kept everything the same, ate all these eggs, and his cholesterol went down in 30 days. And so when you look at what's going on with cholesterol, 80% of cholesterol in your body is made from the body. So 20% comes from food. Well, cholesterol is responsible for so many hormones. It's the building blocks for your hormones, like cholesterol, steroids, steroid hormones. It's like the building blocks for your steroid hormones. So, like, when you eat a lot of cholesterol, your body will make less. And we've been lied to. And so when there's all
of course we have. This world is ass backwards.
Okay, right? And like, so I tune in with this guy. He recently just hit me up because he saw that I made the video or whatnot. And we had a little banter, and I'm like, I think we just became friends. And like, we totally did.
It's like us in the parking lot.
But then I looked, right, and then I looked at his profile, and he said, it said in there, curiosity, and he's like, I'm a nutrition geek with curiosity. I love the curiosity part.
Oh, we need to stay
because
curious.
When you're super educated, but you stop being curious, you're dumb.
Well, that's why life is like, we're a student of life. We're students of life. I feel like I've been talking about this so much recently. Like, we need to stop chasing like completion. Like, there is no completion. Right? Every goal is going to meet you with another goal, is going to meet you with another goal. A lot of humans approach life, men and women, in a way like, once I get there, and it doesn't stop.
Destinational happiness.
Yeah, it doesn't. Oh, that's a good way to put it. I love that.
And
that's what happens. Yeah, it's such a lie. It's like, and we put that towards food, we put that towards these things. It's like, well, once I get there, and then it's like, no, honey, like, it's going to keep unraveling. Like, what's the point of getting to the mountaintop? Like, you're doing it because you want to climb the mountain.
You're right. Jim Carrey said it best one time. He said, I really wish that every one of you can have and reach any of your dreams and ambitions, so you will realize.
I just saw this quote recently.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, get rich and successful so you can realize that it doesn't bring you.
I had that moment myself one time after I was competing for a bodybuilding competition, and things were going real good, and I was in a relationship with the girl, and I said, all right, I'm really focused, and it's going to sound crazy, but like, I just can't see you for like the next 4 weeks because I just don't want any fucking distractions, and I just want to win this thing, and then this is it, you know? And she was like, okay, well, sayonara, big guy. I guess I'll see you when you get back, you know? And I was like, so then I go do the deal, and I won the whole thing, right? I won. And nobody was there.
Yeah.
And I felt so good when I won.
Yeah.
And then I went back to my hotel room and nobody was there. And it was really quiet, and it was so quiet that like quiet was like deafening. And I went to like call somebody, and then I didn't because I was like, who are you, dude? Like, you have people that want to be in your life and want to be part of your life and are, you know, an asset and want to be of value to you, and you push them away to win. The recognition is really what it's about, to win recognition. And I know how important this is to you, Aaron, but like, don't ever forget how you feel right now. And so after that, I changed everything. No matter what I'm doing, when I do a big thing, instead of pushing people away, if there's somebody that means something to me, that's close to me, I make sure they come with me. Because if you're climbing a mountain and you get to the top by yourself, you're going to go, yeah. Woo. Look around. That's it. I've done it because I've done it before in Scotland. I went and, you know, and then it's like, but if you have someone with you, now you're celebrating. You're taking photos, you're laughing, you're talking about it, and it turns into this thing, you know? And then you realize, like,
an actual celebration.
It really, like, and then you realize, like, yeah, it was cool to get to the top, but it's actually so much cooler to have somebody to do it with somebody.
Yeah.
It's actually that's actually the part that matters.
Yes.
And so that's where, like, destinational happiness is like a lie.
Yeah,
you know?
It is.
And I think you have to...
You can feel it now and it keeps showing up from that place.
Yeah, because it's like, I think certain people that are so goal-oriented and driven, you have to get to that place where you're like, this ain't enough. Yeah,
I've been there.
That's good.
When I was in my prime during bodybuilding and I had a business with my best friend. We had the business, we had a 20K month. I made like 5K my first month. We lived in downtown Tampa. Everybody like knew who I was, all these things, but I felt literally fucking empty inside. Like I didn't feel full. Because it wasn't making me, and then I went on my path into like more of my feminine, right? Because I was in that headspace. It's like that, it is a masculine headspace where it's like, I'm going to accomplish all these things, I'm going to achieve all these things, and I'm going to do these things, and nobody's going to get in my way, and it's going to be great, and here I am. And then it's like, oh, wait. And then honestly, that's why like we need to be humbled in our journey, but be confident in that humbling. Right, like I feel like we could go on a tangent about the word humbling because I think that sometimes we make it like being humble doesn't mean we're not confident.
Hey, turns out men are better with it than women.
Yeah. What?
Being humbled.
Oh yeah.
We take it much better.
Yeah. Woman, well, because we're like,
Yeah, and this dude's like, fuck. All right. Yeah. We figure this out. You know. Okay. And then it's just you know, it's part of our makeup is to get beat up, I think. Yeah. It's kind of our... But
moral of all of it, I'll keep coming back, is I feel like it's a woman's responsibility to be in her body. Like, if I could simplify all of this, I mean, for men, like, for you who's, like, wanting to be with a high-value woman, and for any man that's wanting to be with a high-value woman, the woman also needs to know to be in her body, right? Because a woman, like, we're so geared to be up here. I saw this post the other day, and I was like one of those like agree, disagree, both things. I was like, I agree, but I also disagree because it was saying like how a man, and maybe you can share your perspective on this. It was like a man doesn't care if a woman is smart, but I also think there's a difference between a woman who is smart and a woman who is smart and like throws her smart and her intellect in like a man's face.
Oh yeah, totally. Like the thing is, like,
I feel like there's a difference.
Honestly, like. You know, I think it's great to have an intelligent conversation with a woman, you know, and know that they're smart and they're capable in these things. But, like, nobody likes a woman that, like, wants to tell you how smart she is. Right. Nobody likes a guy who wants to tell you how smart he is. Right. You know, nobody likes that. You know what I mean? Like, okay, where's the curiosity? You're like, oh, I pay all my own bills and shit. And it's like, well, fucking congratulations. I've been doing it 17, been doing it for a while. Like, oh my God. Like, what, like, is this a fucking thing? Should I be, like, bragging about that? You know, this is where, like, just be it. This is where, like, too many fucking Cardi B songs and shit be running through girls' heads and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that, I think that most men that are intellectual want an intellectual woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, you know.
And her feminine.
Yeah, you know, want her to have her.
We can be it.
Because if a guy's smart, he wants her to offer strengths that are his weaknesses and vice versa. I mean, if you're smart, you know, because life is like a chess game.
Like you said, I'm not going to go fight someone in the middle of the night if I'm noise outside.
No, but if you got a man, you know, that's capable, that's like, you know, perfect. Now you got that guy. You got to worry about it. He's good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Dating a military guy, you probably felt very safe with all the bullshit, you know? Yeah. It's probably, you know what I mean? And it's supposed to be like that, you know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, we're trying to overcome all of these new social norms, and they're not normal. It's not normal. No. It's like, I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, man, like, everybody is trying to live a great life. And social media has got us convinced that everyone is just all this amazing shit all the time. And it's like a good and bad, because it's good. Sometimes you see what's out there, but then it can be bad for the person that's not on their own journey. Because once you get on your own journey, you're oblivious to like a lot of things. But for like a young man that's like doesn't really know, now he thinks he has to act like he has more than he has, needs to do this, needs to do that. And it's like, he's really just hurting himself.
When he needs to be like out in like the field or something, like
he needs to be sharpening his skills.
Yeah,
he needs
using
to be,
his hands.
He needs to be working. Well, even if he's working on a computer, he needs to be working 15-hour days. Like just now, because when you're older, because when you're older, you're gonna know that you spent so many 15-hour days to be good at what you're good at. Mm-hmm. When you're talking to somebody else, like you have all this confidence. You're like, no, I've been doing this shit forever. Like you say that all you want. This is how you do it. Let me show you. And this is where confidence comes from.
I work 24-hour days.
Yeah, like confidence comes from like doing something over and over and over again so many times.
Conviction.
That you basically. You don't even want to do it anymore because you know exactly how to do it. You've done it so much. Now you have all this confidence because like, you know.
You're more in a flow state.
Well, because you're like, I've done it so many times, it's almost mechanical at this point. So like, I don't have to worry about what you think because I've just had the same result so many times doing it.
I know what I'm talking about.
You know, it's like, you know, me being in the gym now. I've been in the gym now like 31 years.
Right.
And it's like, when I talk about the gym, like, you know, I'm only really exchanging opinions with other people that are professionals, elite athletes, or whatever, because otherwise I ain't fucking listening. Because I know when I go in there to crush it. You know what I'm saying? And I know that, like, you know, I know my nutrition, I'm trained on these things. So it's like, but I've done it so much that, like, that's the last thing I'm thinking about. Like when I'm filming or something like that. At this point, it's like gym etiquette, you know, what people are focused on, stuff like that. And it's like, because you do something so much, you know. So I just think that when young men are young, that is the opportunity to grind and sharpen your skills, because a man, when he's 18, has zero value in the world. Mm-hmm. I would never listen to an 18-year-old kid tell me how to run a business.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, right.
You know, but you take an 18-year-old girl, you know, she can throw on a dress, get her hair done, some lipstick, you know, whatnot, and go hang on the arm of like a dude that's got it going on. Now he's got like this status. So she actually now is like providing all of this value. Yeah. You're doing what? You know? And so this is the dynamics of it all. So it's like you got the man worth nothing at 18, and you get the woman that's worth so much that all she has to do is preserve her worth, and a man has to go create it. And so and
preserve that worth. I love that.
Yeah. And so, you know, with a young man, work hard. Work hard, you know, stay up late working, get up early, no matter what your job is, stay on your hustle, find, like for me, it was always bodybuilding. No matter what other things I did, it was my only foundational rock. It's like I always went to the gym no matter what. And I was always trying to get stronger. I was trying to get bigger. I was trying to grow this, grow that. I was trying to just always. And then after I had enough foundation of it, you know, then it turned into like, then I wrote my book on nutrition, because once I studied nutrition, I figured out things people couldn't tell me that I had to learn myself. Once I learned them, I felt obligated to share them with others. And then what I didn't know is, because I'm self-taught, that I actually learned shit that nobody else has been taught. And so that's why I wrote my book, The Supernatural Lifestyle, because I'm like, I have to share this. And guess what? Nobody wanted to read my fucking book when I wrote it because I was 29 when I wrote it. So people are like, oh, you know, but I mean, I'd already been training, you know, since I was 12. I mean, so do the math, you know what I mean? I already trained that long, you know?
You were embodied. Like that's the word.
Sure.
That's the word that I use in my work a lot is you were embodied. Like it's one thing to get knowledge, to go out there and learn. It's another to actually apply it and become embodied in it. I can read a textbook all day long, but if I'm not actually doing anything with that, then it's just empty.
And that was the thing.
You're just filling your brain with shit.
I was going to the gym and I was talking to all the pros, you know, I was in the powerhouse downtown Tampa, and I would talk to the pros and I'd ask them, and they'd give me a vague answer sometimes. And these are like top athletes, you know?
Yeah.
And when they give me a vague answer, I wouldn't say anything to them or anyone else. I would just go back and start Googling shit and research and buying books and reading books. And then I would get my answers. And I'm like, that motherfucker didn't even know. I'm like, but now I know. And I'd write it down. And then I would like, and I'd keep going. And then like, that's what I did. Before you know, I was doing seminars and shit. And everyone's like, hey, dude, what makes you think you do these seminars? And I'm like, ask me anything. If I don't know, I'll get the answer. But like, just ask me, because I've been asking a lot of questions trying to get answers, you know? And so when I wrote the book, it was just my biggest accomplishment. And I say this again, I easily spent 8 to 15 hours a day on my book for a year, every day. And it was like, I worked on it so hard, you know, and I had to learn so much so I could fill in gaps of the things I wanted to teach. And so I actually learned more writing my book than I ever planned on. And, but if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have had the confidence I do now in what I'm doing, you know, because I put all that work in. Yeah. And so you need like a body of work. Once you have like a body of work, you know.
Honestly, that's literally like, that's what, we need something to channel our energy into. Or our energy's just like, boop. Right? Like we need something to channel our life force energy into.
Sure.
That's where are we putting our energy? Like, have you heard like the basic thing of where your energy goes, attention flows, or where your attention goes, energy flows?
Okay.
Where your attention goes, energy flows, right?
I've heard that, but I like that.
Yeah, right? Because and we just talked about this in the program that I'm in earlier, where it's like, there's either a bunch of stuff on your mind or you're putting your mind on something. We have the power as humans to direct our energy into what we're putting our mind on. But what happens nowadays is what we're filling our mind with things. And now we have a bunch of things on our mind instead of putting our mind
distractions, notifications.
Right. And that's what I think it means. That's what I think it means to be more like a narrow path. It's not to be closed-minded. It's to be so like in your body of work, whatever it is, in that, and life just unfolds in that, like from that place, because you're doing what God created you to do. And in the likeness and the image of it, right? We're actually creating like creating the kingdom from that place. But how can we do that if we're all just so kind of like disassociated again from having that connection in the first place? And I think that like that's what's going to bring men and women back into unity, is women again coming back into their wombs and their bodies, and men coming back, like being able to, I love the way you say it, like they need to be back in like that hard, like they need to be called out or whatever, however you want to say it.
You need to be treated critically.
Right,
Men have to be treated critically.
Yes.
Because it's the same like in the workplace, you know, it's like.
With compassion. Or maybe that's just me as the feminine speaker.
That's just you as a woman. But as a man,
with compassion,
like to you know, like if it's okay, so like so like I raised my little brother, you know, he lived with me. You know, his senior year in high school. We're about to wrap up.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously I love my little brother to death.
How old is he?
Well, he would be 37.
Would be?
Now. He passed away when he was 32.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I was probably harder on him than anyone I've ever been around in my life.
Wow, yeah.
And it's because I loved him so much. And, you know, it put a lot of strain on our relationship at different times. But he came to me when he was like 30, and he was like, you know, I just want to say thanks. I said, for what? And he was like, you being like you were with me, he was like, I never would have became this person if you hadn't been so hard on me. And I was like, I knew it was in there. And I said, I just want to see you get there.
I want to be this. Oh, you're like, I knew you were trying to fight me, but.
I knew, I was like, I just always seen you so talented and so capable and just cool. Like, you were my little brother, but I always thought you were cool. And like, he's the most aggressive person I've ever been around.
Yeah.
Like, he fought in the cage 4 times, and
Wow.
like, you know, every weekend he's beating somebody up, and I'm bailing him out of jail all the time, and that's just what way he was. But like, he was like this force, and I saw it at a young age. And the only way he would have ever listened to, because he said one time, he's like, but I have to say, the way you were with me, you couldn't be like that with anyone else. And I said, well, the way I was with you is exactly what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really hard on him. Like, it was really hard on him. I remember one time I said something to him, and I said, stop acting like a fucking retard, you know? And he goes, don't call me a retard. I said, I didn't. I said, you're acting like one.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, ugh, he's so pissed, you know? But like, I never called him names or belittle him or anything like that, but I would call out his behaviors. And I was critical on those.
Right.
And I'd point those out. And he, over time, saw the difference that, okay, Aaron is really aggressive with me, but he's not doing it to belittle me. He's saying that's unacceptable.
Yeah, because I want better for you.
He was such a hard-headed, high-energy, aggressive person. That's the only way you could get to him was me, really. And I knew if I'd say shit that it would sit in his head, like my dad used to say to me, you know.
You're passing it on.
Because he looked up to me. You know, and so I kind of had that. So anyway, well, I think we should wrap this up. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I feel that the most important aspect, I'm going to keep saying it because it's simple and repetitive, but it's repetitive, right? I feel like the core essence of our conversation here is that in order for men and women to be in, like, we can call it gender roles, women need to land inside their bodies, come back to their bodies, and then men need more men, basically, in their life that can help build them up and in the ways that you feel you know, having like that growth and that evolution. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if a woman is really going to be able to be in her feminine and a man can really be in his masculine, it comes back to how we are feeling within ourselves first and foremost, right? Because I can't be in my feminine if I feel like crap about myself, because that's not what it is to be in our feminine nature. Like I love what you said, like if we're going to preserve our worth, we need to know our worth. And if we're going to need to know our worth, then we need to come back down and, if you want, I can send you my website and you can link that below. And,
well, yeah, let's definitely put your website. What's the name of your website? ShaniceThomas.art/womb-of-creation. And it takes you right to the landing page where I talk about, like, I have like videos where I have like an intro video and little snippets of the program. But the essence of it is literally just to come in union with God as a woman and back into our womanhood. Right? So it's about being rooted and uncaged. So. Well, I like it. Okay, what are your social media handles so they can find you there too?
I only really have Instagram mainly, so _Shanice Thomas _.
Okay.
So you can link that too if you want. I don't know how you do your podcast stuff. But.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
I think we brought cool perspectives.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, I'm coming from a very single woman's perspective here. So I've been single for almost 2 years.
Obviously, I'm actually coming from a single guy's perspective right now. So
we're coming from past experiences that have shaped.
So maybe nothing I said about relationship maybe valid.
I feel like we're speaking like being in your feminine. I feel like
that's my disclaimer.
Where we're going is like, be in your feminine, be in your masculine, and let it go from there.
Yeah,
How about that?
And eat right, train hard, stay focused. Don't be a sissy.
And love God.
That sounds great.